Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I have the SOG Aegis, and this is a knife that has a lot of great features, a lot of great characteristics. It's one that I've actually been really enjoying carrying, except for one glaring, horrible, drive me totally insane thing. So before I get to that, let me tell you all the things I like about this and why why I bought this knife, even though I kind of suspected that I was going to have an issue. The size on this knife is perfect. The weight is perfect. The ergonomics, the blade shape, the deployment, the pocket clip even, the grippiness, the ergonomics, everything about this knife is fantastic. It is so well done. Except, and so for all of those reasons, I love this knife. For all those reasons, I've been really wanting it for some time. However, you'll probably notice if you watch knife videos like I do, that this knife always seems to have blade play. Every single person I've ever seen talk about this knife talks about blade play in the up and down direction. And guess what? This one has blade play in the up and down direction. Side to side, it's nice and solid. Now it had a little bit of blade play when it first came out of the box, and of course I just a slight tweak to the pivot screw and it was fine. So that was no big deal. Lots of knives out of the box will have a little bit of blade play and you can just tweak them and get them right. However, up and down blade play is not something you can really do anything about. You're just stuck with it. And so because of that, it's extremely frustrating. And you know, this is probably not true in 100% of the cases, but I've spent some time on forums and some time watching videos, and a huge amount of the time, it seems like, you know, maybe 90% of people who report, now I know people are more likely to report negative than positive, but about 90% of people who report talk about this knife having blade play, and that is really sad, okay? Now, to kind of add one more thing to this discussion, one of the things that I found a number of times is people on forums saying, hey, mine had blade play, I sent it to SOG, they sent it back to me, and it's solid as a rock now, which is awesome. And so I'm going to be sending this knife to SOG, and I will do a follow-up video discussing the fix and how it performs after it's been fixed up. Now, one other qualification for this knife before we get into the video, I think this is a great knife as sort of a value folder. You know, I think for, you know, under $50 and even under $40, this is a pretty good knife. Now, for the prices that it was originally going for when it came out, you know, 60, 70, 80, even $90 I saw it for in a few places, there's no way this is a $90 knife. I'm sorry, you know, if someone from SOG watches this and you think this guy's an idiot, sorry guys. I would compare this knife, and I think it compares favorable to knives like the Kershaw Blur, like the Spyderco Tenacious, those mid-range, you know, $45 price point knives. This competes very well against those. You move it into the next bracket up, and it's going to try to compete against like the Griptilian and even the Spyderco Manix. It's not in the same category as they are. Sorry about that, SOG. If you have an Aegis and love it, and I do love this knife, don't get me wrong, but I love it as a value knife. And by the way, I will say that now the prices, you know, I was looking on eBay just the other day, and you can find these for $38, $42, $45, and I think those prices are reasonable. That's what you should be paying for this knife. I know I probably shouldn't be saying that, and I know people, knife retailers and SOG itself as a company is going to say, you jerk. Well, that's fine. I like the knife. I do. I love it. I love it as a value folder, not as a high-end folder. Okay? So that's my sort of qualifications that I want to make about this knife before we get going. And now let's go ahead and get into the rest of the review. And I've got to tell you, it's going to be very favorable because there's so many things I like about this knife with that one glaring issue of blade play. And hopefully I can make a follow-up video in a month or two after this has come back and say, hey, SOG fixed it, it's fantastic. Go ahead and buy one yourself and you're going to love it. And if it does have blade play, send it to SOG. That's what I'm hoping. And I have read that little story a number of times in forums. So I'm fairly hopeful that that will be the result of this little discussion here. Now, I'm going to come in so that we can go through size and weight and blade shape and all of that stuff. So here's the knife. It is 8 1/8 inches overall. Now I'm ignoring, see how the pocket clip here, let's see how the pocket clip loops past the bottom of the handle? I measured from here, not from here. Okay, so I've measured everything from here. So you would have to add about a little less than 1/4 of an inch. So if you measured from here, this knife would be almost 8 1/2 inches, would be like 8 3/8, okay? I didn't do that because as far as I'm concerned, this is not part of the handle. So I didn't measure from there, I measured from there. So let's get back into the measurements. 3 1/2 inch blade, exactly 3 1/2 inch blade, 4 5/8 inch handle, making it 8 1/8 inches overall. The pocket clip does loop down just a little bit, which adds just a teeny bit of length to that, okay? The weight on this is fantastic, 3.1 ounces. A knife this size, weighing at 3.1 ounces is amazing. Very, very good weight. You don't even notice this knife when you carry it. And look how big it is. You can carry a knife of this size and literally not know it's in your pocket. That is a real achievement as far as I'm concerned. So very, very good size and weight. This dimension is a little less than 1/2 inch. So even that, it makes it very comfortable to carry. I will give you a couple of size comparisons. I know a lot of people have the Recon 1. So here is the Aegis compared to the Recon 1. I have to zoom out a little bit so you can see that. There we go. So here is the Aegis and the Recon 1. You can see that the Recon 1 is a fair margin larger, probably about 1 inch, not quite 1 inch big longer. And here is the Aegis compared to the Cold Steel American Lawman. The American Lawman, you can see, is just a little bit shorter, although the blade size is fairly similar. There's more cutting edge here, and there's more handle here, which actually makes this knife a little more ergonomic than the American Lawman. However, the American Lawman kind of changes it up by putting this finger choil in, which allows some different grip options than the Aegis. So there are some similar, there are some size comparisons that you may want to do. And I would say that the Recon 1 is probably a good comparison because some people will think of this as sort of a tactical folder because of its speed, because of the black, you know, any knife you paint it black and all of a sudden it's a combat knife rather than just a regular EDC. I definitely think of this solidly in the EDC category. Of course, any knife could be used in a defensive or combat situation, but if you know going in, like if you're a soldier or a police officer or something like that, this is probably not the knife to go with. It's just not robust enough. Now, let's carry on and talk about some of the stuff that this close-in view helps us with. Blade shape to start off with is awesome. Okay, so you've got 3 1/2 inches of Osage steel. It is a full flat grind and it is very thin behind this edge. This thing slices like a demon. It is exceptional. I did a little test where I took this knife along with a few others and just tried to push it straight into a piece of wood to see what kind of depth I got. And this knife went deeper into that piece of wood than the knives I was comparing it to, which at that time were the CRKT Eraser designed by Leon Ma and the Kershaw Blur, another really common EDC knife. By the way, look for a comparison video between this and the Kershaw Blur. They are very, very comparable as far as I'm concerned. This blade shape really lends itself to any kind of slicing, food preparation, anything where you're cutting through a substrate. This thing really shines. Also though, because of that thinness, it's going to stab like crazy. You can stab this into just about anything you could think of. I've done some stabbing into cardboard and it just slides in and buries itself very quickly, very easily. So great knife for piercing, great knife for slicing. Really does a good job, and even some carving and whittling it does well. I wouldn't want to try to process all my firewood with it or anything like that, but if you're just, you know, you're a person who likes to whittle while you're sitting around in your hunting blind or something, I think this knife would do that job for you pretty nicely because of the thin edge geometry. Now, by the way, it is a full flat grind, and I know I've made comments about hollow grind. Full flat grind on this blade works really, really well because it's not as thick a blade stock. The full flat grind is really, really nice. It's a very, very well executed blade shape. Deployment is its assisted opening, and it has the arc lock, although this is the cheaper version of the arc lock. Some arc locks, the good arc lock, goes all the way through, and you can see through it like you can on a Benchmade Axis lock. As you can see, you can't see all the way through this. And so it's sort of like a half arc lock. You find this on the Flash 1, Flash 2, a couple other SOGs that are sort of, I think the Flashback or something like that as well has it. Anyway, it's sort of a budget version of the arc lock, and this is one of those things where I feel like SOG should have probably bit the bullet and put the full size, the better lock in, and then I think you would have had a better knife on your hands. Maybe that would have solved this little issue that we need to readdress because we're talking about deployment. I will say it deploys extremely fast. Probably, I don't know if it's quite as fast as my Benchmade Barrage, but it's every bit as fast as any other assisted opening knife, and definitely faster than the Cryo 2, faster than the Kershaw Scrambler, which is a great knife, one of my favorites for, you know, sort of gentleman's carry. But this is an extremely fast deploying knife, and it's really fast, even though, as I pointed out earlier, I did tighten up the pivot to get rid of side-to-side blade play. There was a little bit of side-to-side initially, and I just, you know, very, very minor tweak on the pivot screw, and then it's solid as a rock. Even with that tweak, it still deploys extremely fast. There's no issue there at all. Okay, now, it does have this little lock that we need to talk about for deployment. I'll just demonstrate very quickly. So I close the knife, push this little lock up, and guess what? It will not open. No chance. Push it down, and guess what? There you go. I like to deploy this knife, by the way, via my middle finger, like I would do a spider flick like that. I don't know why. It's just, I guess from flicking open my Spydercos, I've sort of got accustomed to that. It works well, as does the thumb stud. So deployment is very easy, very fast, very strong. No question about that. Lockup is good. Like it's not like it's going to fail to lock up ever, but just when it does lock up, there's a little bit of up and down blade play, and that drives me completely insane. So I have used this knife, and I will say, on sort of a brighter note, when you're using this knife, if you're actually holding it and pushing it in, you can't feel the blade play then. You only feel it when you purposely take the knife like this and try to move it. And I don't know, you probably won't be able to hear that, but there's a little click that you can hear as that knife moves up and down. Extremely frustrating. I feel like a knife company that has been around as long as SOG and has the technical ability of SOG should not be producing a knife with blade play on that consistent of a level. Sure, 1 in 1,000, no big deal, but when every single person who makes a video about this knife mentions it, that's not good. So deployment and lockup is good with that glaring issue of blade play. Let's get into the handle. This is the last thing that we want to touch on in the pocket clip. Handle is extremely comfortable, very, very ergonomic, tons of grip on this knife. I have used it both with bare hands and with gloves, and let me just grab the glove that I've used. These are the Mechanic, slightly lined. This is mostly what I use, even in, you know, I tend to have pretty warm hands, but just to demonstrate, knife still comes out great. I can still unlock it and close it one-handed, even with these gloves on. And these have, you know what, 3 mil or 6 mil lining in them. So handle is very comfortable, excellent for grip. There's lots of handle. One of the things I don't like about the American Lawman, and this is one of my favorite knives, by the way. If I was going to do a top 10 video, this would be in the top 10. But see how my hand comes past the end of the handle when I grip it in sort of a saber grip? I'm not a big fan of that. This knife has sort of this little narrow extension. It's almost like the handle could end here, but it doesn't. It just keeps going. And that allows for some place for my hand to rest at the back of the knife. And I really, really like that. It does add some comfort as far as I'm concerned. Now, this FRN, I can feel if I really squeeze hard, there's a little bit of flex in it. And I'll see if I can demonstrate. Let's see here. I don't know if it's moving. I guess it is a little bit. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's a teeny bit of flex there. It's not like I'm worried that it's going to break. But just if that's going to bother you, you should know about that before you buy the knife. Now, I have never, again, I've done all kinds of cutting, and purposely I did that because, one, I wanted to see how the blade play felt. I also wanted to see if it got worse after some hard cutting. So I you know, worked my way through a couple of 2x2s and a bunch of cardboard and just things that I thought would put some strain on the locking mechanism. And the blade play hasn't gotten worse, and so hopefully when SOG fixes it for me, it'll be consistent after that. All right. Also, all of that hard cutting I was not, you know, uncomfortable with the handle. And so again, there's so many good things about this knife. The handle is excellent. You know, it's comfortable, it's grippy, it's easy to use, it fits my hand well. Even the sort of teardrop shape here with the cutout, you know, it does give good grip, it gives good comfort. So, one last thing is the pocket clip. You can see that it's a very, very deep carry, and you can turn it around. You can you can see the little Torx bit here. Take that out, flip it this way, put it back in on the other side, and you're done. It's very, very deep carry. One thing I did do is I took my little pry tool on my keychain, slid it under here, and just tweaked this a teeny bit. So that it goes in and out of pocket. When it was new out of the box, I could barely get it out of my pocket. So I've just tweaked it a teeny bit. I don't know if you'll be able to see a little bit of light under there or not. But the way it is now, it's still a little difficult to get out of pocket, but not impossible. I find I can get it in and out fairly quickly, which is, you know, what's the point of having a assisted opening knife if it takes you 5 minutes to get out of your pocket, right? So let's back off, and I'll very quickly leave you with my overall impressions. Overall, I really like this knife. I think it's got a lot of cool factor. I think it's very ergonomic. I think it's great. Very, very, I wish I could give this top marks as an EDC, but probably if you're like me and you're like most people, you can't deal with blade play. And really, at the price point that this knife is coming out at, there should not be any blade play. That's inexcusable as far as I'm concerned. So I would say this has the potential to be a stinking awesome knife, especially for the prices that you can now get it at. I think I found this one on eBay for, it was a good price, maybe $38. I'm not remembering exactly, it's been a while, but you can find these for around 40 bucks, which is about what they should be as far as I'm concerned. And that's $40 Canadian, which means you guys in the US could probably find them for like 35, 32, whatever. So there you go. That's my take on the SOG Aegis. Really cool blade. I really like it. And the only glaring problem is that up and down blade play. So I'm going to send this to SOG, and you can expect a follow-up video where I will let you know how that all turned out. I hope, sincerely hope, that what I'm saying in the next video is, hey, go watch the previous video and all that good stuff is still just as good, but now there's no blade play, because this knife really checks in all the boxes: size and weight and ergonomics and blade shape, and just everything is awesome about it with this one big problem. And so I'm hoping that I can get that resolved and have a new favorite in my collection. All right, if it does get resolved, I would say this will be solidly in you know, my top 10 EDC blades, no question. Maybe not my top 10 overall, because I would have a lot of hard use folders in my top 10, but top 10 EDC, yes. Hopefully that'll be the case as soon as that blade play issue gets resolved. That's everything that I have to say about the SOG Aegis. Again, my overall impression is awesome knife with one glaring problem, which is the blade play. Talk to you later, YouTube. Have a great day, and hope you had a really good holiday. This is sort of that in-between limbo time between Christmas and New Year's. Talk to you soon. Bye.